frontalis, sternocleidomastoid, and masseter. I definitely never do these. Temporalis I did once in 9 years, so am I going to do? No, I'm not going to do temporalis. So make sure you study the ones in red. If you study the ones in red, you'll get every muscle question right. And even still, that's, a lot of muscles to study for only 10 questions. Yeah, there are 10. The chart says 8, but I put 2 bonus questions, and that's to help you. You don't have to study anymore. Just study the same ones you would study as if there were 8. And I took 2 of those and added them. Okay, it's to help you. And they will truly be bonus questions. If you get them wrong, you don't lose any points. So if you get 2 questions wrong on the test, you still can get 100%. On this, don't lose that one. Okay, some forget to study that one. I do use that one quite a bit. External oblique or internal oblique, pectoralis major or trapezius, all of those. And then when I do over there, I'll show you which ones I like to use on Miniman. Okay. So we won't be having this one. We will have the better one. I just talked to the lab specialist. The biggest ones of the head. The other models, you're going to see these on the other models already. One exception. Sternocleidomastoid I always do on Miniman. And that's because this is all fragmented. So on Miniman, it's one nice continuous muscle. This will be on there. This is what this is what I added for the bonus questions. Okay, so that's why we're going to be using that model. And again, 2 questions on Miniman. The arm muscles again, the ones in red: deltoid, brachialis, biceps brachii, triceps brachii. So you see only one of them can be on there, because that's the upper arm. Then the other one's going to be one from the lower arm. Sorry, I didn't do that. One from the upper arm, one from the lower arm. There might be an extra arm question, again, because of Miniman. So, Miniman could be an arm question. Not frequently, though. I don't usually use Miniman for the arm question. So where are the arm questions on? This. One from the lower, one from the upper arm. The leg ones, keep in mind that the leg question can ask the group instead of the muscle, so make sure you read the question. Don't assume I'm asking the group either. One student, one time I asked for the muscle and he put down the hamstring. He was in the right group, but that's not the question. I was pointing to the biceps femoris, and he put down the hamstring. Unfortunately, he's still wrong because he didn't answer the question. So make sure you read that question. If it's in the back of the thigh, it's hamstring. If it's in the front, it's quadriceps, only if I ask for the group. But if I put a sticker on it and it says which muscle, make sure you define the muscle that I put that sticker on. And this is just like the arm. One from the upper leg and one from the lower leg. Unless it's a Miniman question. So a lot of times I'll use Sartorius on Miniman. That will be the extra one. That's why that's in red. I use that on Miniman a lot. Gluteus maximus, gracilis, tibialis, and one of these has to be on there. Well, that's the lower leg. On the leg. 2 questions on Miniman. I got a lot of that I can choose from. I'll do it over there. Pointing to one you can't see, so I'll do it over there. On this, it looks like a lot for 2 questions, but remember this isn't 2 questions. There's overlap between this and the microscope slide question. This picture is on your final exam. This will have its own station. So what is this? It's this. So what is this? It's a myelin sheath. It's a Schwann cell. It's a node of Ranvier. It's a myelinated axon. Okay, so that's why studying these, you get 2 questions on this and 2 questions on this. So it's really not as bad as you think. So you got 4 questions off of that. And that's because this overlaps this. It also tells you if I point to the node of Ranvier on this, I'm not going to point to the node of Ranvier on this. I'm not going to duplicate. So keep that in mind. So make sure you know where all of this is. This I can point to the picture because you can all see it. What's on this that's not on this? The dendrites and the axon, the hillock, the axon hillock. The dendrites and the axon hillock is on this, but it's not on this. So you're guaranteed to at least see one of them over there. Okay, and then the rest of them, the axon, the myelin sheath, the Schwann cell, the node of Ranvier, that's all on this also. Don't worry about synaptic knob. I don't do that. That's extra detail. It is. It will be this picture, by the way. We have a few of them, but this is the one we put out there, so we'll put the same one out there again. This is also on there. This is 3 things you need to know, and 2 of them are on there. Don't forget what you're looking at. What's this red stuff? Skeletal muscle. What's the dark line? Myelinated axon. And what does the axon go to? The motor end plate. 3 things, and 2 of them are on the test. So make sure you know those. Then the brain. Now this is where you should have been spending some time already studying these. You should, have your list of the things I said to know. I already told you gyrus and sulcus, absolutely, definitely, both of them are on there. Every 100%. Gyrus and sulcus. And most of you will listen. Most of you will get that right. The other things that are on here is one of the lobes. Absolutely, one of them will be on there. Which one? I'm not going to tell you that. And make sure you know frontal, parietal, occipital, but make sure you also know which side's right and which side's left. So I don't do the temporal lobe, and we definitely don't do the insula. So don't worry about temporal lobe and insula for the lobes. A cerebellum, absolutely. The vermis, absolutely. And the arbor vitae, which when the vermis is cut in half. So longitudinal fissure, that's a 50-50 shot, whether or not you see that on there. Okay, this view, absolutely. Absolutely, this view will be on there. What can you see? No, it won't be corpora quadrigemina. I'll just point to one of these colliculi. Can you name them? Do you know the locations? This is superior up here. This is inferior down here. This side's right, this side's left. And if you got that, you can name it. Right superior colliculus, right inferior colliculus. Left superior colliculus, left inferior colliculus. So what's the other question? That guy up there. Pineal gland. So make sure you know pineal gland. Okay, then you'll see a ventral view for certain. And so what's the list? Olfactory bulb, optic chiasma, mammillary body, infundibulum, keep going, midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata. On this view, maybe it might be on the brain that's cut in half. You'll see all of those structures with the brain cut in half except for one. You won't see olfactory bulbs from that view. And that's because it's not in the center. So that just makes sense. So what's in the center? Let's do it. You got optic chiasma, you've got infundibulum, you've got mammillary body, you've got midbrain, you've got pons, you've got medulla oblongata. So absolutely, every one of them can be a question on this view rather than the ventral view. So make sure you can do that both ways. And those are the ventricles. You got lateral ventricle, you got third ventricle around the thalamus. Add thalamus on there. Now you can see the thalamus. And you've got fourth ventricle underneath the arbor vitae, or otherwise known as the vermis, otherwise known as the cerebellum. On your test, when I pin that thing, you will, one of 3 choices will be within your choices. Not all 3, only one of them will be there. Because any one of those 3 would be correct. If there's a pin in there, this could be called the vermis, it could be called the cerebellum, or it could be called the arbor vitae. 90% of the times it's arbor vitae. But you shouldn't cry and say, well, I thought it was arbor vitae, and you don't know that's the vermis. You're supposed to know that. You're supposed to know that's the vermis cut in half when we say arbor vitae. Okay? So make sure you know all of that. You also need to identify when it comes to the lateral ventricle, which side of the brain is this? So if you can't do that before you leave tonight, make sure you get yourself with me. I'll straighten you out how to do this. It's facing that way, so you face yourself that way. To see the inside, you got to take this side of your brain off. So I just removed the left side, so that's the right side. Okay? Make sure you can do that before you leave. So you got one of the ventricles. You got now you got the roof of the ventricle is the corpus callosum. The floor of the ventricle is the fornix that's on the other side. The fornix. And then you've got the thalamus has been added on. That was on the prior slide. And then again, you've got arbor vitae over here. There's your list. That's everything you need to know on the sagittal view. Except for what? Don't forget those ventral view structures. Optic chiasma, infundibulum, mammillary body, midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata. So that's not over there, right? But we did that. That was on the ventral view. And you can see that below view too. We're not done now, right? Absolutely on there. If I put a pin through that white stuff, that is the dura mater. And on the ventral view, the dura mater is still on there. You got the pituitary gland. That's not mammillary body. That's pituitary gland. So you got about a 90% chance that pituitary gland will be asked. But it doesn't necessarily have. With this particular brain, it could be pituitary, but it also still could be optic chiasma or infundibulum. I'm not guaranteeing you it's pituitary. That's all fair game. Okay? This is showing you the dura mater, making sure you don't forget that. That's dura mater, by the way. That question, that's like gyri and sulci, 100%. That's on every test. We want to make sure you at least leave this room knowing something. Okay? Human brain is the same as the sagittal view questions, with one addition. The white model, the brain that's still in the formal one, that adds this number one up here, falx cerebri. It's just the dura mater that's dividing the brain from right side to left side. So in the human, they have a special name for it, falx, F-A-L-X, cerebri. Cerebri is just the plural for cerebrum. And cerebrum is that part of the brain. So everything else the same. Lateral ventricle, corpus callosum, fornix, the third ventricle, the thalamus, pons, medulla oblongata, fourth ventricle, arbor vitae, cerebellum, vermis. All of that's the same. You can see I put these in yellow. I don't do that on the human brain. As a matter of fact, never. I don't do that. So you could have put that in white. Well, it's there. It's just hard to see. Less, but obviously there's no falx cerebri on this because there's no dura mater on that. Okay, so it's same list. 2 questions on the plastinated human brain and 2 questions on the one that's preserved in formal. Then the cranial nerves. So you know the story with this. I wrote them on there. The abridged version of the functions. If you don't have to do that. That's optional. But if you want to, I'll have extra paper. Don't bring your own paper because I don't want you to come here with all the writing. And by the way, once you do this, if you're going to do that, the bonus part at the end, you can't get up and walk to the station and read that. That's not cool. So and it's on counts. So just do the best you can if you want to do it. But I'll give you this advice: if you haven't written them down at home yet on your own, you're not going to get anything on the test. It's not easy. This is something you got to practice at home first. You can get 10 bonus points. So, up to you. You need to know the location. I gave you that little hint down the middle, right? 1, 2, 3, double 3 is 6, double 6 is 12. That gives you the middle nerves. So now you can find them. Because 1, 2, 3, now that means 4 and 5 are off to the side. And all you have to do, it goes in order from top to bottom. So now you know 4 and 5's over there, 6 is in the middle again, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 off to the side, and then 12. That's why that's a huge help, because it's right in order. So for the bonus part, if you do, by the way, the numbers have to be Roman numeral. If you put the cardinal number down, 0, no points. But you have to get 3 points for the names and numbers. if you get all of them, you get 3 points. If you miss one, it subtracts 1, so now you're down to 2 points. If you miss 2, you're down to 1 point. If you miss 3, you're 0, so you got 0 for that column. The next column is the sensory motor, the category. Is it sensory motor or both? I've had students hand me the paper and all they had was the categories, the sensory motor or both. I'll give you 3 points for that. If you get all 12 of sensory motor and both, I'll give you 3 points. If you miss 1, that's 3 minus 1 is 2. If you miss 2, 1 point. If you miss 3, 0. And then the functions, I gave you the abridged version of this. You don't have to give me this much detail. If you give me this much detail, I'm not going to mark you wrong. You'll be fine, but you're not going to get any more points either. So if you were smart, you took a picture of that, and you studied it, or got it from a fellow student, and you're good to go. If you put that down here, if you get 1 wrong, 3 points. If you get 2 wrong, 2 points. 3 wrong, 1 point. 4 wrong, 0. The spinal nerve, you got 6 things, not really 5. The spinal cord, rather, spinal cord. It's the 5 things: chordae, conus medullaris, spinal terminale, the spinal nerves, and the dura mater. 5 things. And how many questions? 4. 2 on this and 2 on the plastinated. We keep, when I say we, us professors, we talk to each other. We should take one of those stations off. We really shouldn't have 4 questions on this. But then we say, we'll leave it. So 4 questions on that. And there's only 5 things to know. That's a pretty good return on your study. It's up to you. And this is the other. That's definitely on there. 2 questions. I told you which ones I like on which. If you were listening, you know which one's going to be on which ones. What do you need to know on these? Chordae equina, conus medullaris, phylum terminale, spinal nerves, and dura mater. Well, obviously, dura mater is not on this one. There is no dura mater on this. This just makes sure you know how this is labeled. Then we got the spinal cord that's cut in cross section. 6 questions on this. 4 on the model. The model will have 2 stations, and the other one will be the the microscope slide picture, and that's the list. It's the same list for the model as it is for the microscope slide picture. And then I gave you another little help here. 11 and 12, you can cut that off. I don't ever ask them. So it's 10 things for 6 questions. So that's not a bad return either on your studying time. That's really worth getting down, making sure you know them. The only other thing you do have to add is that you must remember that the posterior side is sensory. So the dorsal root ganglion, the dorsal roots, and the dorsal horn are all sensory structures. And the ventral roots and the ventral horns is motor. One of those is definitely on there in that manner. In other words, I'll point to one of those, either the anterior side or the posterior side, and the question won't be, what is this? The question will be, is this sensory or motor or both? So if you want to get that question right, make sure you remember which side is which. Okay? Nothing is there to trick you. Don't look at the shape of the butterfly or the H in the middle. It's not upside down. The top is always going to be posterior or dorsal. All right? You can kind of tell anyway, because the dorsal root ganglion has to go into the dorsal side. But I'm letting you know, we're not trying to trick you. It kind of looks like it's upside down when you compare it to that. But it's not. It's because it changes shape when it goes through the spinal cord. Depends on where you are. Questions on the eye, and I told you the larger model is the one that's going to have to be opened up to look at the things that are inside. So you got the layers, you got the sclera, you got the cornea, you got the choroid, the retina. Well, choroid and retina is not asked in that manner. Choroid and retina is more going to be asking you what's at the end of the choroid, which is the ciliary body. And the retina is going to be about that macula luteae and the optic disc. So if you get a retina question, it's going to be about macula luteae and optic disc. If you get a choroid question, it's going to be about ciliary body. You got the lens that's in there, and that's a possible choice. You got the iris, that's the color of the eye. You got the pupil, that's a possibility, which is the hole in the center. Then you got the, there it is, macula nuclei and optic disc. No phobias in Charles. Cut that one out. I don't do that one. It gets controversial as to what I'm trying to point to there. Then you got the cavity. Don't forget the posterior cavity, and don't forget what fills that. It's also known as the vitreous cavity because it's filled with vitreous humor. The 99% of the time, the question is going to be what fills this space. Okay, that's generally the way I go with that question. Once in 9 years, I did ask, what's the name of this cavity? Okay, what do I usually ask? What fills that cavity? What fills that space? And it's vitreous humor. Then one of the eye muscles absolutely will be on there, and that will be on the smaller eye model, just because they show up better on the smaller eye model. They're more visible. I told you I would. My suggestion would be to start with the superior oblique, because that tells you what side's medial, what side's lateral. It points to the medial side, and now you know where medial rectus is and lateral rectus is. So one of those will be on there. So here we go. What's the structures on this? That's the optic nerves. What's the yellow dot at the end of that? It's the optic disc. If you look just lateral to it, I mean, I got to get oriented here. There it is, the yellow dot that's over there. It's hard to see with it. On the test, I'll take this globe out, right? But that yellow dot that's lateral to it, that is the macula nuclei. There's your retina question. Then if you follow the choroid all the way to the front, what's this wedge-shaped area in the front? That is the ciliary body. Here's this space here. What fills that space? Vitreous humor. What else we got here? If you follow this all the way to the front, what was that? Clear. It's, and again, I apologize that the picture doesn't have it in there, but you all know what's in there. That clear piece of, that's the cornea. So cornea is possible, iris is possible, pupil is possible, and there's the lens behind the iris. Real quick, once again, what fills this space? Vitreous humor at the end of the optic nerve, optic disc, macula nuclei, ciliary body, cornea, iris, pupil, lens. 2 of those will be on there. Then we got the smaller eye model, and you got the eye muscles first. Which one's that? Superior oblique. Where is that pointing to this side? So what's this one? Medial rectus, because that's the way that's pointing. Medial rectus, lateral rectus, superior rectus. Now the other 2 we can't see, but you all know they're in there. Inferior rectus on the bottom, and inferior oblique is under there, going obliquely. One of those is absolutely on there. What's the second question on this going to be? Here's your choices for the second question on this. Either sclera, or the clear piece of plastic here is the cornea, or the color is the iris, or the hole is the pupil. That's the other one. It's one of those. The other question on this model is one of those. Sclera, cornea, iris, pupil. Only one question on this that comes from the model itself, not the pieces that come out of the model, and that's the eustachian tube. Eustachian tube. The other questions that's going to be on this is going to be those pieces that I take off. And they will be taken off. They won't be inside the model. I do that so you can see it better. And what's the things that you need? There's your list. Tympanic membrane, the semicircular canals, the vestibule, the cochlea, and the 3 little ear ossicles, malleus, incus, and stapes. Only 2 questions on this. So a very high percentage rate, over 90% of the times I do ask for the eustachian tube, which only gives me 1 question for something else. And that's the year. So there they are. There's the pieces. Tympanic membrane. There's the malleus. You see the red line? That's separating malleus from incus. Everything below this red line, that's all that whole piece there. That's one bone. That's malleus. This piece over here, that's all incus. There's stapes. Stapes actually attaches to this. And that's on top of the vestibule. And these circles here, those are the semicircular canals. And that snail-shaped thing there, that's the cochlea. And that's what a cochlea is. It's a snail. We discussed that already. And that's it. That's your review. Any questions about any, the power? right in the front there, frontalis. Around the eye, orbicularis oculi. Around the mouth, orbicularis oris. The chewing muscle over there is the masseter. Probably not this one, but temporalis would be the other one here. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it on him. Then we got the torso, the white line, linea alba. Then the abdominals. This one going this way, superior lateral, inferior, that's external oblique. Then on the other side, notice it's going the other way, in the other direction. Inferior lateral to superior medial, that's internal oblique. The chest, that, that's it. What about trapezius? Oh, it's the entire diamond. So that's why I use Mini-Man for that. This guy is cut in half. You're missing half of the muscle. So for your back muscles, this is the only back muscle I gave you, trapezius. What else would I use Mini-Man for when it comes to these? I've used that for pectoralis major, so I could use it for that. What else here? For the head, neck, and chest muscles, sternocleidomastoid. That's where I do sternocleidomastoid. That's why I didn't show it to you on this one. When I want sternocleidomastoid, it's the one in the it's Mini-Man's neck. Okay, so I was holding off to show it to you on Mini-Man. It's in pieces over here, so I'm a little crazy. That bothers me. Okay, so there's your head, neck, chest, and back muscles. Next is the arm. Mounted on the stand like this. You can't touch that one. But right next to it, there'll be another one laying on the table. You can pick that one up. So if you want to see better, you can. But the one that's mounted, and it will be on the stand, all right? It won't be just laying on the table. So what's the first arm muscles? Deltoid. Then the posterior side of the upper arm is triceps brachii. On the anterior compartment, you got biceps brachii. And underneath biceps brachii is brachialis. Now brachialis, I sometimes will point to it this way, but 90% of the time what I do is I take bite and I throw that on the table and I point to it that way. That's supposed to help you because you let you see it better. But you should know that when that's taken off, what's the one underneath them? Brachialis. That's it. That's the upper arm. And the lower arm, let's do the posterior side first because really there's only one muscle there I ever point to. It's the one that has all of the tendons go into all of the digits. You used to call those things fingers, right? So it extends the digits. So its name, extensor digitorum. You see, if you forget the name, you can figure it out. It's on the back, so it has to extend the digits, extensor digitorum. On the anterior side, you got a possible of 3 here. And the one that goes over the top of the ligament that makes the carpal tunnel, the flexor retinaculum, that one that's right in the center, that is palmaris longus. If you go just lateral to it, remember that the thumb is lateral. That one there, that is flexor carpi radialis. Come back to palmaris longus, and the one that's medial to it, that's this one here, and that is flexor carpi ulnaris. So that's your arm questions. The arm, there'll be one laying down that you can pick up. The lower leg, we got only two choices here. There's the tibia. What's the one right next to the tibia? Tibialis anterior. And in the posterior side, this whole thing is one muscle as far as you're concerned. There's a deep one there, but we don't go over it in this class. That's gastrocnemius. You're guaranteed to see either gastrocnemius or tibialis anterior because those are the only 2 lower leg muscles I gave you. Now the upper leg, between the knee and the hip, posterior, if I ask for the group, that's the hamstring. And on the anterior side, if I ask for the group, that's quadriceps femoris. The individual muscles of quadriceps femoris that I will possibly ask, rectus femoris is the one in the middle, vastus medialis is on the medial side, vastus lateralis is on the lateral side. I don't do intermedius. I'm too lazy. I'm not going to pull the thing off because it's underneath there. The hamstring, the individual muscles, the one on the lateral side, biceps femoris. The one on the medial side is tendinosis. And that's it for those. On the medial side of the leg, you got gracilis. That's possible. Sartorius. No, it won't be on this. It's possible, but not here. That'll be on Mini-Man, because it looks pretty on Mini-Man. Okay, so you got gracilis. Sartorius is here, but it will be on Mini-Man. Then you got on this side, gluteus maximus. That's it. So, why? Because I can point to the iris and I can point to the pupil by putting the sticker inside there. So first, the muscles. On top, the oblique muscle, superior oblique. Obviously superior, it's on top. Oblique, because it goes at an angle. Why do that one first? Because it points to this side, which is what? Medial. So superior oblique, medial rectus, lateral rectus, superior rectus, inferior rectus, inferior oblique. One of those will definitely be on there. The other question is either the white here, that's sclera. The clear piece is cornea. The color inside there is iris. And the hole inside there is the pupil. That's the second question. You come to the other eye model, and guarantee that the top will be taken off. All right? First possible question, what fills this space? Vitreous humor. What fills this space? Vitreous humor. Follow the sclera to the front. What's this clear piece in the front? Cornea. That's possible. Behind the cornea, what's that? Iris. In the middle of the iris, pupil. Behind the iris and the pupil, what's that? The lens. Now I can take this out, I can take this out, and now we can see this stuff in here. That's the optic nerve. So what's the yellow dot at the optic nerve? That's the optic disc. Lateral to it, the other yellow dot, I gotta make sure I get my stick on it, macula luteae. Finally, the last thing here, if you follow that red line all the way to the front, you see that wedge-shaped area, ciliary body. And now you got your 4 eye questions. 2 on this one and 2 on the others. You got dendrites, and you've got axon hillock. So this area right there, where it's nice and fat, like a funnel, axon hillock. These spiky things here, technically these are the knobs, but we're just going to go with dendrites on that. Dendrites, axon hillock. What's this? A structure. Myelin sheath. What's the name of the cell that makes that structure? The Schwann cell. What's this gaps in between the Schwann cells? Node of Ranvier. This overlaps that. What is this? The myelinated axon. If I put the sticker right on that dark line, what is that? The myelinated axon. What's that shadowy area around the outside of it? That is the myelin sheath. What's the name of the cell? That's the way the question will be worded. What's the name of the cell that makes this structure? The Schwann cell. And then you can very nicely see that little notch in there. What's that notch? Node of Ranvier. So you got 4 questions. 2 on this and 2 on this. Off of there, those little shriveled up things, those are the spinal nerves. Where the spinal cord ends, conus medullaris. Where all of these nerve root fibers come off, it looks like a horse's tail. That's what we're going to call it, horse's tail. Cauda, tail, equina, horse. Cauda equina. The one in the middle is not a nerve fiber. It's not a nerve root. It's the phylum terminale. All right, this I'm going to use the picture, but we have the actual specimen here. If I tilt it too much, it's going to spill all over the place. So I'm going to use the picture. And first thing you can see is the material that surrounds the outside of it, just like it does the brain, dura mater. The dura mater. That would have to be on this. It can't be on the plastinated one. That doesn't even have dura mater on it. The other thing that's nice on this one is the spinal nerves. They're nice and they're not shriveled up. They're plump. Yeah, so that's a good one for this one, isn't it? The other thing that's nice on this is our ponytail. Looks like a ponytail. Chorda equina. Chorda equina. Dura mater. Spinal nerves. Nice. Lateral column, and up here, anterior or ventral columns. Same thing with the microscope slide picture. There's a dorsal root ganglion, the dorsal root, going into the dorsal horn, and those are all sensory. The ventral root, the ventral horn, those are both motor. The gray matter in the middle, joining the two sides, gray commissure. The hole in the middle of that is the central canal. The white matter divided up by the gray matter, this is dorsal or posterior column. Lateral column, anterior or ventral column. So how many? 6 questions. 2 on this, and 2 stations for this, so 4 on this. 6 pink stuff. What is that red stuff? A skeletal muscle. What is these dark lines? Myelinated axons, or just plain old axons. What do those go to? Motor implant. 3 things. 2 of them are on the test. That finishes my course. Brain, we started in that manner. We looked at the top. So that's how I'm going to approach this here. I'm going to face it this way for you. This is the front, that's back, posterior, anterior, front. First things first, what are these elevated areas? Gyri. What are those dark, where those dark lines are, those grooves? Sulci. What's this fissure in the middle? Longitudinal fissure. What's the lobes now? Where's the right? This is right side, that's left side. Figure that out? Good. Right frontal lobe, right parietal lobe, right occipital lobe. Left frontal lobe, left parietal lobe, left occipital lobe. When I put the pin in this, it's going to be obvious. If I want occipital lobe, it's going to be all the way to the back. So it's no question to you. If it's all the way to the front, that's definitely frontal. If it's in the middle and you say, I'm not sure, well, that's parietal. Okay? Make sure you can do right and left. The other lobes, I don't do. The next thing we did to Gemini. This is the right side over here. So what's the lobe on this side? That's the right superior colliculus. Right superior colliculus. On the other side, left superior, left superior colliculus. On the other side is left superior colliculus. Below it, left inferior colliculus. Left inferior colliculus. On the other side, below it, right inferior colliculus. The other thing that's in there, way up here, this one's going to be hard to do because I got to split it, and then I got to hold it open, and then I got to point to that thing that's way down deep inside there. But that's the pineal gland, way down deep inside there, above the corpora quadrigemina. Above the corpora quadrigemina, that little guy that's way up in there. All right? That's the pineal gland. That's like always on this test, because that's one of the questions in this view. Pineal gland is one, the other one is going to be one of the colliculi. Right? You figure that out. That's the right. You can't pick it up and do that, but you have to be able to do that when it's lying down. So what's that space? Right lateral ventricle. What fills it? Cerebral spinal fluid. What's the roof of that? The top of that is corpus callosum. What's the bottom of it? The fornix. The space below the fornix is third ventricle. The little round ball that the third ventricle goes around, thalamus. Below that round structure, that big, nice big round structure there is the pons. Below the pons right there is the medulla oblongata. This piece right there is the cerebellum or vermis, or more likely arbor vitae. Underneath that, the space underneath that, fourth ventricle. So you can see I skipped some of the tight areas in here on the human brain. Then we got the wet one. First things first, I can't tilt this too much, but this piece of Pacific Maine, that is the falx cerebri. It's just not fair. I gotta pick it up. Falx cerebri. Yeah, 100% of the time. That's on the test. I'm gonna put a pin, just like this pin is in there. That is the falx cerebri. What side of the brain is it? Oh yeah, right. Okay. So, what space is that? Here we go, same questions. What space is that? Right lateral ventricle. What fills the space? Cerebral spinal fluid. What's the roof? Corpus callosum. What's the floor? The fornix. What's the space underneath the floor that goes around the thalamus? Third ventricle. There's that round marble-like structure, the third ventricle goes around, that's the thalamus. The round marble structure way down here is the pons. Below the pons is the medulla oblongata. Then this here is one of three things: cerebellum, or vermis, or more likely than not, arbor vitae. The space underneath the arbor vitae, fourth ventricle. That's it.